Woodcraft, helping you make woodwork.
Wood, and I just used a hole saw. I cut a hole out of the middle of it, and the hole is large enough so that, let's start with the clean side, we can lay this on here and it'll be steady. That's the only reason for that piece of wood, okay? So, now we got this, and I said I was going to use, let's see here, loosen this. Now I'm going to put a square piece of material in the lathe. It's not going to rotate very far. Put it on there, tighten the chuck onto it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this thing up. Notice when it's not tight, there's some wobble in it like that. Bring it up, but don't quite touch it. Tighten it. And then we're just going to turn this in here. What we're doing is we're transferring the center registration through the piece of stock. So when I take this away, I got a little dimple here, and that should be true with everything. So now I can take this off. Here's our square piece of wood that we have. And we've got a dimple in it. This is going to be a 6-button chuck that we're laying out. So what we need to do see if I can make all this fall. We're going to draw a line through here that this line could go any direction. The important point is that it's based on that center point right there. Then when we get that line, we're going to take a protractor and we're going to make several other lines like that. Not a very good artist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These should all be 60 degrees apart. 6 times 60 is 360. So let's lay out our little lines here. We have a dimple in here. Remember that dimple we just made? What I usually do is I put the pencil tip in the dimple and push the ruler up to it. And you can just, this does not have to be square with the wood. It can be any place, but just kind of eyeball it. It's a little easier to see that way.
It is big.
So there's our first line right there. Now what I'm going to do is take my little protractor that I broke the other day. I'm going to lay this on here, try and line this up from straight above it so you get it as accurate as possible. It's important that you try and do this as accurately as possible. Try and have a little sharp pencil and everything. So I'm going to make a little tick by 60 degrees and another tick by 120 degrees. We're done with that. Take my straight edge, I'm going to put my pencil back in that dimple again. And I'm going to line it up with that tick that I made. And that goes there. Pencil in the center again. Line it up with the tick. This is what we have so far. Any questions at all? This is 9th grade math at best. Yes, sir. Okay. So this is what we've got. Now the next thing we're going to do, this is where we get the compass out. I got this thing from, unfortunately, a different vendor than Woodcraft because I didn't know Woodcraft was here some years ago. But anyway, big beam compass here. What we're going to do is draw some circles. The first one we're going to draw is right here in the middle. And that circle is going to be the diameter of your faceplate ring. And the only in other words, it's this outside diameter. And I know that this is 3 inches, so I don't have to measure it, but measure that. And the reason we put that circle over here is so we can see where that faceplate is on the other side of the wood. So what I'm going to do, 3 inches, half of that is 1.5 inches. So I'll go from the center out 1.5 inches. And what I do now is I put, let me dimple that center thing a little more. That's the center. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the sharp point, not the pencil, but the sharp point in the center hole. Bring this over and line it up with that. This should be close, but it doesn't have to be within a millionth of an inch or anything. I'm just going to draw a circle around here now. Okay, this is what we got. That's what we got. Everybody with me so far? Okay, the next thing we're going to do is, let's see, where's my little... Here's the reason that we drew this circle. This is the faceplate diameter, okay? We got our little tightening down screw things here. If you look on this side, we want to position this from the middle so that when it's on the inside or compressed mode, that these little tips don't hit this, okay? So I know, because I've measured many of these, I know this is 1.5 inches in diameter. So what I want to do is come in 3/4 of an inch from, and I'm going to base this off I'm going to measure from this point right here. I'm going to come over about 3/4 of an inch or so. Actually, I'm going to make it 7/8 to give me just a little slop factor. I usually need that extra. So I'll make that about 7/8 right there. Now what I'm going to do, take my compass again. Sharp point goes in the center always, almost always. Tighten that up. Draw a circle around there. If you brought your gun today, you can shoot at the target there. So what we've done, there's 2 circles now. This circle out here is for this knob, and you can see as I turn it, it clears that inside, because these are actually going to be over on this side with the thing, okay? Everybody with me so far? Excuse me. Okay, we're going to make a 12-inch chuck, so I need to make a 12-inch diameter. So what I'm going to do is go in here, and from the center, I'm going to measure out 6 inches. Now remember, all these lines and circles that we're drawing on here, all they're used for are cutting guides for when we actually get the router out and get all that stuff going. And again, you can, if you measure very, very closely, you can actually get this down. You might be able to get 12 1/8 out of it. You know, make this as big as you can. Okay. We've done this. Everybody with me so far? That's what we've got, okay? Now this is where the fun begins. This line here, the knob line, or the knob circle I call it, remember we had this, that is the minimum point that you can compress this. Now we're going to set the maximum point, and what you want to do is on the outside, you want to come in about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. Again, this is not critical, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. And that will be the maximum. And basically what you're doing is leaving some wood out here. So you don't want to have 1/8 of an inch because it won't be structurally good, okay? So I'm going to come in about 1/2 inch or so from this outside circle. And make it 5/8. Split the difference. Get my compass again. Find this point right here. Everybody with me so far? Okay. Now, we're going to take our ruler and from this line, this second from the outside line, that's the point that you stop when you're cutting the groove with the router, okay? And that's going to determine the maximum expansion. Max expansion, minimum compression. You want to measure this distance in here. Should be 3 inches each or so. Yep, right, 3 inches. Now you want to find the center of that, 1.5 inches either side. See, I went from here to here, and that's the middle. So now, I'm going to draw a circle on this. It's starting to look like a big old target. See what we have so far. Okay? We got a circle around here. Now, this is where the fun begins. These points, actually let me do it up here so you can see it. This max expansion, minimum compression, halfway in between, okay? This point, here, here. This is where accuracy counts now, because those points are going to be what's called the pivot point. There's a pin on that router circle jig for that router. It's a 1/8 inch diameter pin, and so we'd wind up drilling an 1/8 inch hole here, 1/4 inch deep or so, and the router will pivot based on these points. So what I want to do, take my little awl, and as accurately as possible, find where this circle intersects this line. So right at that intersection right there. And if you can get within a 1/16 of an inch or 32nd, that's totally fine. I mean, there is slop built into this little design. Yeah, we've already got that taken care of. Okay, do you see where we're at now? I've made little dimples. This is where it gets interesting, because what we're going to do is I'm going to take my compass and I'm going to put the point, in here. The pencil will go to this point, the opposite side on the, remember we projected through the diameter of the faceplate. So point there, pencil here, point here, pencil here. And let me show you how this works now. So let me get the thing set up and come on, get in there. Now, what we're about to do is scribe the arcs, okay? This is where your compass should not deviate. You're going to make 6 arcs as you go through this thing, and just make sure that all 6 arcs are exactly the same. So, point goes out in the green circle, the other side goes here. Now at this point, I'm going to swing it to the left. There's no reason you couldn't swing it to the right if you wanted to do it, but that's just the way I chose to do it. So there's one. We'll go around the clock here. There's 2. Straight across.